June 9th, 2025. At 10:19 last night, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller posted on social media, "Stand with ICE. Pass the big, beautiful bill." And there it is. The Republicans' one big, beautiful bill is the MAGA regime's attempt to replace the American government we've had since the 1930s with one that reflects the anti-democratic values of Project 2025. The measure is unpopular. According to a new CBS News YouGov poll, 60% of Americans think the bill will help wealthy people, while 54% think it will hurt poor people. 47% think it will hurt the middle class, while only 31% think it will help the middle class. As Simon Rosenberg of Hopium Chronicles noted, it's stunning how badly Trump and the Republicans have lost the debate on what their reconciliation bill will do. The measure changes the nature of the American government by extending tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations and adding significantly more money to immigration enforcement and defense spending. According to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, the measure will add as much as $2.4 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. With interest costs of that new debt, the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget concluded the measure would increase the debt by nearly $3 trillion. At the same time that it moves money upward and into the white nationalist project of expelling immigrants, the measure guts federal policies and agencies that serve the American people, apparently with the goal of pushing such policies and agencies to the states. The CBO estimates that as many as 13.7 million Americans will lose health care coverage if the measure passes, and cuts of nearly $300 billion from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program will mean cuts of about 30% to the programs on which millions of Americans depend. Miller's post underscores the administration's need to change the conversation around the measure, whose 1,000-plus pages lay out the MAGA vision for the United States. "Don't kid yourself," Senator Brian Schatz, a Democrat of Hawaii, posted. "They know they are absolutely getting cooked politically with their terrible bill and rising prices, and they want to create a violent spectacle to feed their content machine. It's time for the mainstream media to describe this authoritarian madness accurately." Manvi Singh of The Guardian put the right lens on events in Los Angeles today, noting Trump's dramatic escalation and his vow to crush opposition to his immigration raids. Singh identified the administration's escalation as the trigger for a roaring backlash. Singh noted federal agents carried out arrests in LA without judicial warrants and that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, has been holding families in the basements of federal buildings, refusing them access to lawyers and family members. Agents in riot gear attacked protesters with tear gas and flashbang grenades, turning peaceful protests into clashes. Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller called the protests an insurrection. And last night, Trump activated at least 2,000 members of California's National Guard over the protests of California Governor Gavin Newsome and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Just after midnight this morning, Trump posted, "Looking really bad in LA, bring in the troops." Administration officials are continuing their emphasis on spectacle and performance to try to bring popular opinion back their way. CNN's Brian Stelter reported today that television personality Dr. Phil McGraw and his camera crew were embedded with ICE during the raids. According to Dr. Phil's right-wing TV channel, he was there to get a first-hand look at the targeted operations. He also had exclusive access to Tom Homan, the man known as Trump's border czar, and recorded interviews with him before and after the LA sweeps. But that, too, is spectacle. As Josh Marshall of Talking Points Memo notes, Homan and Miller are the public face of border enforcement and anti-immigrant policies. But Homan is not part of ICE. He is a White House advisor, working in a civilian capacity. And yet, as Marshall records, He has taken to showing up before the cameras in either faux military uniforms or, in most cases, civilian garb clearly meant to appear like military-style fatigues, along with an ever-changing run of camo or olive drab baseball caps. Trump seems happy to let these White House officials take the lead in the immigration performance. On Saturday, Homan threatened to arrest anyone who obstructed immigration enforcement, refusing to exempt LA Mayor Bass or California Governor Gavin Newsom. Newsom responded, "What the hell is this guy? Come after me. Arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn, but I care about my community. I care about this community. What the hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop, and we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So Tom, arrest me. Let's go." As he arrived back at the White House this morning after spending the weekend at Camp David, Trump told reporters, "I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job." Homan does not have the authority to arrest anyone. Using him to threaten to arrest a governor enables Trump to make the threat while also being able to deny that he made it. Although members of Congress have legal authority to enter ICE detention facilities to conduct oversight, Jesus Jimenez, Chelsea Rose Marcius, and Nate Schweber of the New York Times reported that over the weekend, 5 members said officials barred them from doing so. New York Democratic Representatives Adriano Espaillat and Nydia Velázquez say they were prevented from checking on the well-being of those detained in New York. In California, Democratic Representatives Maxine Waters, Jimmy Gomez, and Norma Torres were turned away from the Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles. Waters said she was trying to see David Huerta, the popular president of the Service Employees International Union California, who was injured when officers threw him to the ground and arrested him on Friday. Huerta's arrest has mobilized union workers to protest the immigration sweeps, and today the Department of Justice announced it was charging him with felony conspiracy to impede an officer, which carries a maximum penalty of 6 years in federal prison. Crowds gathered in Washington, D.C., as well as in L.A., to call for Huerta's release, and this evening he was released from custody on a $50,000 bond. In a statement following his arrest, Huerta said, "What happened to me is not about me. This is about something much bigger. This is about how we as a community stand together and resist the injustice that's happening. Hard-working people and members of our family and our community are being treated like criminals. We all, collectively, have to object to this madness because this is not justice. This is injustice, and we all have to stand on the right side of justice." Today, Mayor Bass reminded protesters that LA has a proud history of peaceful protests for immigrants' rights. She called for them to continue that legacy. Don't fall into the Trump administration's trap. Protest peacefully. Looting and vandalism will not be tolerated. She added, Trump didn't inherit a crisis, he created one. To those stoking the fire of lawlessness and chaos alongside him, LA will hold you accountable. Observers today said the LA protests, most of which take place within a 5-block radius, are overwhelmingly peaceful, characterized by Tejano music and celebrations of local culture. This afternoon, a government official told Reuters that it is deploying about 700 Marines to Los Angeles until Wednesday. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat of Connecticut, said, "Here's what you need to know about what's going on in Los Angeles. The state and city have the means to control the protests. Donald Trump is getting involved to intentionally make the situation more violent and potentially to create a pretext for some sort of martial law." David Dayen of the American Prospect posted, "The correct way to connect the authoritarian presence in LA and the big beautiful bill is that the bill gives the government the resources to do this in dozens of cities at once. So if you don't like what's happening in LA, it's coming to your town if the bill passes. Today, California Attorney General Rob Bonta and Governor Newsome sued Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth for their order to federalize the California National Guard without authorization from the governor and against the wishes of local law enforcement, calling it an inflammatory escalation unsupported by conditions on the ground. They have asked the court to set aside the order, calling it unlawful. In addition to being unlawful, it appears the deployment was not terribly well thought through. Matthias Gaffney of the San Francisco Chronicle reported tonight that the National Guard troops sent by Trump to Los Angeles received no federal funding for food, water, fuel, equipment, or lodging. Gaffney shows a photo of wildly underprepared troops sleeping in their clothes on a cement floor. Nonetheless, Trump called another 2,000 California National Guard troops into federal service today to support ICE. Jamel Bouie of the New York Times looked around at events and wrote, "What I see is a White House whose ambitions outstrip its resources, who did not count on facing mass resistance, and which is scrambling to escalate the situation in hopes that a display of force will make people shut up." This evening, Trump posted on social media a photograph of what appeared to be Border Patrol and ICE agents with the caption, "The one big, beautiful bill boosts Border Patrol and ICE agents on the front lines with the largest border security investment in history." Governor Newsome said, "U.S. Marines serve a valuable purpose for this country, defending democracy. They are not political pawns. The Secretary of Defense is illegally deploying them onto American streets so Trump can have a talking point at his parade this weekend. It's a blatant abuse of power. We will sue to stop this. The courts and Congress must act. Checks and balances are crumbling. This is a red line and they're crossing it. Wake up." Also tonight, about 400 people turned out in Dallas, Texas, against ICE in solidarity with Los Angeles. At about 9:40 p.m., Dallas police said the protest was an unlawful assembly. At 10:15, officers moved in with pepper spray and smoke to disperse the crowd. A final note. While the oxygen in the country was taken up by the administration's escalations, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today got rid of all 17 of the members of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices that advises the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Kennedy, who has taken a public stand against vaccines, told the Senate in his confirmation hearings that he would not change existing vaccine approval systems. But in an op-ed published today in the Wall Street Journal, he said, "A clean sweep is needed to reestablish public confidence in vaccine science." Laura Unger and Amanda Seitz of the Associated Press report that Kennedy intends to replace the fired committee members with his own picks.
Letters from an American was written and read by Heather Cox Richardson. It was produced at Soundscape Productions, Dedham, Massachusetts. Recorded with music composed by Michael Moss.